While recent years have dropped some massive new titles, sometimes you just miss the old days of gaming. You might not realize that these titles have already existed for more than a decade. So today, we are blowing the digital dust off our hard drives and diving headfirst into 20 legendary single-player games that aren't just a fun trip down memory lane, but are legitimately undeniably worth your time to replay right now. So kicking things off, we have Halo the Master Chief Collection. Man, booting this up feels like a warm hug from a Spartan. You're getting an unbelievable amount of content here. Pretty much the entire saga of a super soldier who refuses to talk about his feelings but loves blowing up alien zealots. Playing through the campaigns, especially the Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, the graphical leap still holds up wonderfully today. Sure, the multiplayer UI can still be a bit of a labyrinth sometimes, but honestly, dual-wielding needlers while the epic choir theme blasts in the background just never gets old. If you've never finished the fight or just want to experience that classic floaty physics magic again, it's a must-play. Speaking of throwing lead, let's pivot to something that will absolutely make you sleep with the lights on. The F.E.A.R series is a brilliant concoction of John Woo-style slow-motion gun-fu and sheer unadulterated pants-wetting terror. Honestly, Alma still haunts my nightmares, popping up in the absolute worst places while I'm just trying to reload my dual pistols. The enemy AI in the first game remains terrifyingly smart even by 2026 standards. They will flank you, they will flush you out, and they will make you look like a scrub. The sequels lean a bit more into action than horror, but drop-kicking a clone soldier in slow-mo is eternally satisfying. Just be prepared to pause the game every time a light bulb flickers in your own house. Now, if you need a breather from the psychological trauma, why not jump into Final Fantasy X? This game is basically a beautiful tropical vacation that goes horribly wrong because of a giant angry flying whale named Sin. Experiencing Tidus and Yuna's journey again in the HD remaster reminds me why the Sphere Grid is still one of the most satisfying leveling systems ever created. Sure, the voice acting has that famously awkward laughing scene, which we love to meme, but the emotional core of this story genuinely hits like a truck. Plus, Blitzball is still the ultimate love it or hate it minigame. It's an old-school turn-based masterpiece that perfectly captures the golden era of JRPGs.
I hadn't really laughed like that in a long time. Then, once we beat Sin, we're coming back.
And if you prefer your tropical vacations with a bit more gunfire and insanity, Far Cry 3 is calling your name. This is the game that basically defined the modern open-world shooter formula, and climbing those radio towers still triggers a weird Pavlovian response in my brain. Vas Montenegro is easily one of the best villains in gaming history. He practically rewrote the definition of insanity for all of us, while the protagonist, Jason Brody, transforms from a whiny frat boy into a super soldier a little too quickly. Sneaking through the jungle with a bow and arrow to liberate outposts is just flawlessly fun. It's the ultimate island sandbox that still plays incredibly smooth today. Diving deep into completely different environments, we absolutely have to talk about the BioShock series. Whether you're descending into the underwater dystopia of Rapture or ascending into the sky city of Columbia, these games are just dripping with atmosphere. Smacking a splicer with a wrench after zapping them with Electrobolt is the kind of combo that never loses its charm. We can probably all admit that the hacking minigame in the first one gets a bit tedious after the 50th pipe puzzle, but the philosophical themes and mind-bending plot twists easily make up for it. It's a masterclass in environmental storytelling that still leaves my jaw on the floor. Before we continue the video, I want to inform you that right now, there are tons of crazy deals in instant gaming, especially if you love RPG games. Remember how expensive modern gaming lately? Well, not anymore, since you can get so many amazing titles with crazy discounts in instant gaming. Can you believe that just with $10 or even less than $5, you can enjoy one of the best gaming experiences in your life? Just look at these titles. It used to cost like $30 or even more than $40. And to make things even crazier, some games even drop so far to just $1. If you're a smart guy, you know what you have to do. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games, and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list.
Just go along with them, Lara. Do whatever they say.
Resurfacing from the depths, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition took an iconic character and threw her into an absolute meat grinder of survival. Lara Croft's 2013 reboot is gritty, intense, and makes you wince in sympathy every time she takes a nasty fall. The archery combat has genuinely some of the punchiest feeling mechanics out there, and exploring the mysterious island of Yamatai feels incredibly rewarding. Granted, there is a slight disconnect when Lara cries over her first kill and then proceeds to mercilessly eliminate 100 mercenaries 5 minutes later, but the pacing of this adventure is just spectacular. It rejuvenated the franchise and still holds its own as a gripping cinematic action game. From surviving an island to surviving a walled-off super prison, Batman Arkham City is basically the gold standard for superhero games. Rocksteady managed to perfectly capture the feeling of being the caped crusader, from seamlessly gliding over the snowy rooftops to dropping into a crowd of thugs and initiating that flawless free-flow combat. I mean, is he stupid for letting the Joker get under his skin so much? Maybe, but the dynamic between them here is comic book perfection. The Riddler trophies can definitely test your patience if you're a completionist, yet there's simply nothing quite like stringing bad guys from gargoyles.
We're gonna hurt you, freak.
Nice of you to join us.
Swapping the Batsuit for a nanosuit, the Crysis Remastered series finally lets us answer the age-old question without our PCs melting into a puddle of expensive slag. Sneaking around a beautifully rendered jungle and seamlessly switching to maximum armor to punch a North Korean tank is a power fantasy done right. While the later games become a bit more linear and shift focus towards fighting squiddy aliens, the core gameplay loop of assessing a combat zone and tackling it how you see fit is fantastic. The remaster brings those glorious graphics up to modern standards, making the tech demo that terrified our graphics cards a decade ago look absolutely stunning all over again.
Promise whispered in secret so many years ago.
If tactical freedom is your jam, then Dishonored 2 is a stealth enthusiast's dream come true. The sun-drenched streets of Karnaca are a gorgeous playground where you can be a ghostly pacifist or a supernatural blender of doom. Playing as either Corvo or Emily gives you two completely different sets of wildly creative powers. Honestly, the Clockwork Mansion is probably one of the greatest level designs in the history of video games. The way the rooms physically shift around you is mind-boggling. The story can feel a tad predictable at times, but chaining together a teleport, a time stop, and a non-lethal takedown makes you feel like an absolute genius. On the complete opposite side of stealth, we have the unapologetic, loud, and incredibly stylish Devil May Cry 4. This is where we first got introduced to Nero long before people started calling him deadweight, and his Devil Bringer arm completely revolutionized the combo system. Revving his sword like a motorcycle mid-combo to hit an SS rank never ceases to inject pure adrenaline into my veins. Okay, yes, the second half of the game famously makes you backtrack through the exact same levels you just played, which is a bit of a bummer. But the combat mechanics are so incredibly deep, technical, and satisfying that juggling demons in the air makes you easily forget the repetitive scenery. Shifting gears back to stealth, but with a massive open-world twist, Metal Gear Solid 5 is basically the ultimate military toy box. With the massive hype currently surrounding the Snake Eater remake, going back to MGS5 highlights just how far ahead of its time the Fox engine was. You can literally defeat an enemy outpost by calling in a supply drop on a guard's head or sliding into them with a cardboard box plastered with a poster. The narrative famously feels a bit unfinished towards the end, and Kojima's departure is still a sore subject, but purely from a gameplay perspective, this is tactical espionage operations at its absolute peak. And if you want a game that will kick you in the teeth and make you say thank you, Dark Souls Remastered is waiting for you in Lordran. Revisiting this masterpiece reminds you why the interconnected world design is praised to the heavens. Finding a shortcut back to Firelink Shrine is a feeling of relief unmatched in gaming. Of course, the second half, especially the infamous Bed of Chaos, shows its rushed development, and Blighttown will always give veterans a slight twitch in the eye. But conquering Ornstein and Smoke after getting squashed 30 times brings a euphoria that very few experiences can replicate. Praise the sun, because this classic is still a brilliant exercise in patience. If you prefer exploring a wasteland instead of a dying fantasy world, Fallout New Vegas is still the undisputed king of role-playing freedom. Because let's face it, patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter. Obsidian gave us a game where your choices genuinely matter, allowing you to side with the NCR, Caesar's Legion, Mr. House, or just say screw it and take over the strip yourself. Yeah, the Gamebryo engine is famously held together by duct tape and dreams, so expect a few wacky physics glitches along the way. But the phenomenal writing, the dark humor, and iconic companions make this an unforgettable trek through the radioactive desert.
You gathered for me, so the path I shall yield.
Trading the radioactive wasteland for a much more whimsical fantasy, we absolutely have to talk about Fable: The Lost Chapters. With the brand new Fable reboot dominating the gaming conversation right now in 2026, there is literally no better time to revisit Albion. Sure, Peter Molyneux notoriously overpromised on features, and the Guildmaster constantly nagging will forever haunt my nightmares. The combat is also pretty straightforward by today's standards, but man, the sheer British charm here is completely off the charts. Watching your character physically age, get covered in scars, and literally grow demon horns just because you couldn't resist kicking a few innocent chickens is a delightfully goofy morality system that still feels incredibly unique today.
The medal's here! Hey man, what the f*** y'all doing risking my ass to save y'all?
Moving from the fantasy realm to the sunny, chaotic streets of Los Santos, GTA 5 has had us in a chokehold for over a decade. While we're all eagerly counting the days down for GTA 6 dropping later this year in 2026, revisiting the misadventures of Michael, Franklin, and Trevor in single player is a fantastic nostalgia trip. The satirical take on modern American culture remains sharp, and the heist missions are incredibly well-directed set pieces. The flying controls can definitely be a bit clunky for those unaccustomed, but driving a stolen sports car down the Vinewood Hills while the incredible radio stations blast 80s pop is a feeling that never ever fades.
I thought someone might have your phone.
Strange markings that I've discovered right across Renaissance Italy. Now, I don't know what they're doing there.
Taking a leap of faith into the past, Assassin's Creed 2 is the game that truly put the franchise on the map. Ezio Auditore da Firenze is simply one of the most charming and well-written protagonists in gaming history. Running across the beautiful Renaissance rooftops of Florence and Venice alongside Leonardo da Vinci feels like stepping into a living history book. It is true that the combat can essentially be cheesed just by waiting to counterattack every single enemy, making you feel completely overpowered. But the conspiracy-laden narrative, the gorgeous soundtrack by Jasper Kidd, and the sheer joy of the parkour make this an essential piece of gaming history.
Time to find and silence Vieri.
Here! Don't look him again!
If you want a narrative that spans across the entire galaxy, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is an absolute triumph. Taking Commander Shepard and the Normandy crew from the first game all the way through the third is an emotional roller coaster. Building relationships with characters like Garrus and Tali makes them feel like genuine friends, which is why deciding who survives the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2 is so incredibly stressful. The Mako driving sections in the first game are still a bit bouncy and divisive, even with the modern tweaks. But with the next Mass Effect game still brewing in development, this remastered trilogy is the perfect excuse to save the Citadel one more time.
Just trying to get a sense of where the crew's at.
Hola, peasanters! Hola, soldiermans!
Speaking of incredible RPGs, The Witcher 3 just keeps finding ways to stay relevant, with the massive new Songs of the Past DLC and the free next-gen PC update rolling out right now in 2026. Dropping back into the continent is an absolute no-brainer. Geralt of Rivia's journey is packed with side quests that are written better than most games' main storylines. The combat movement can sometimes feel a bit floaty, but the world building, the hauntingly beautiful soundtrack, and the gripping storytelling are simply unparalleled. It's a masterpiece that just refuses to age.
Important to risk. If you were to get captured, however, it would be far easier to find you with.
For those who miss the deep tactical roots of classic RPGs, Dragon Age Origins is a masterclass in world building. Following the recent questionable release of Dragon Age The Veilguard, going back to where the Blight all started is incredibly eye-opening. The origin story system, where your character's background drastically changes the prologue and how the world reacts to you, is something I desperately wish more games did today. Yes, the visuals are very brown, and the Fate segment is universally agreed upon as a slog that we all dread, but the party banter with Alistair and Morrigan is downright legendary.
Delay. Alduin will be coming.
Finally, we can't talk about legendary replays without mentioning Skyrim. At this point, Todd Howard has probably ported it to your smart fridge, but there's a reason we keep coming back. The sheer freedom to ignore your destiny as the Dragonborn to become a master cheese hoarder or the leader of the Thieves Guild is intoxicating. We all know about taking an arrow to the knee, and yes, the melee combat is essentially just wildly swinging a pool noodle at Draugrs. But the atmospheric exploration, Jeremy Soul's god-tier soundtrack, and the absurdly massive modding community keep this game infinitely playable.
Roda!